I wanted to speak a few words within regards to a famous Italian rabbi. His name was Rabbi Yisrael Benyamin Bassan. Zechet Tzadik Livracha. He was actually born in English year 1701. He passed away in 1790. He did. He was great Posek Halacha. He was a chazan. He was a cantor inside the synagogue. He was a Mohel. He would perform circumcision. He was a poet, also a great rabbi of the Jewish community of Reggio in Emilia, respectively. He was born 1701. I believe he passed away on the 14th of January in English year 1790. I think that was the 5th of Shvat, respectively, on that specific date. So he was actually born, I think, in Padua, if I'm not mistaken. This was a place we've spoken about on many occasions before. And he was 89 years of age when he passed away. We're going to see that his Torah colossal work called the Purei Lechem will be absolutely outstanding masterclass, let's just say, in of itself, and was one of the great rabbis of Italy. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the great rabbi's life now. I believe he was, as we said before, he was born in Padua, and he was, I think at that point in time, he would actually come from great rabbinic auspices in of itself. I think his mother's name, if I'm not mistaken, was Yocheved, who was the daughter of Rabbi Benyamin HaKohen Vitali, another rabbi we've spoken about various occasions before in this series. And his father was Rabbi Yisrael Benyamin, I believe, another famous rabbi. Now, I think when he was only 18 years of age, he'll be ordained to the rabbinate. I think very, very astounding, let's just say in this up. I'll say what it says actually in Hebrew here. בגיל 18 הוסמך על ידי סבו לתואר חבר, or חבר is a prestigious position, let's just say, within regards as a תלמיד חכם, ובגיל 30 נסמך לתואר מעלת מורן הרב. He was given a full rabbinic title, I think, at that point in time, just by the time he had hit 30 years of age. Then I think come what the year, hey tough pay sign, I think he was about 26 years of age. I think he would get married to Rabbanit Tova. She happened to be the daughter of Rabbi Menachem Krakovia, I believe, and very much, let's just say, a great person also in itself. And I think there was connection also with the famous Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, Rabbi we've spoken about various occasions before. And I'll state what it says, V'dido Ramchal kibel lichvod ha'irua et hamazeh Migdal Oz. I think a special presentation was actually called the Migdal Oz, was actually prepared. Then come with the year, hey tough Tzadik Sofit. I think at that point in time, sadly, his grandfather passed away. I think Rav Vitali, he would actually move, I think, to Reggio Emilia, I think at that point in time, to fill his position in of itself. Avar aviv Reggio Emilia lemale et makomo Yisrael avar gam hu le'ir. And then I think come hey tough Tzadik Tet. It was after, sadly, his father passed away. He was once again appointed, I think, a position under whatever position he might have had, if I'm not mistaken, or something similar to that. Come what the year, hey tough kuf Yud Gimel. I think most famously the Cheda, Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Azulay, would actually, I think, visit him. I think one of them would visit each other's houses at that point in time. And I think it would be actually chronicled over within regards to this important meeting that would actually take place at that point in time. Remember, the Chida was arguably one of the most famous rabbis, without doubt, in Jewish history. Now, come what the year, Hitaf Kuf Mem Gimel, I think more would actually come out. I'll say what it says over here. Be'et polmos divrei shalom ve'emet, tamach benaftali hertz visa. I believe that's what it actually says over here. And I think he was about nearly 90 years of age when he passed away on the 5th of Shvat in Hitaf Kuf Nun. We're talking about 1790. Towards the end of the 18th century, and Rabbi Yisrael Chai Karmi would actually take his place. Another rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before here in this series. Now he would write I think more than 11 Sifrei Drashot, Shirim Rabim. There's different songs and sermons in of itself. Now one of them was called Lichvod Francesco Hashlishi Dasata Doches Modana. I believe, I hope I pronounced that correctly over there. And there was another famous Shilot, question and answer book called the Purei Lechem, which he spoke about on the outset, interesting enough. And Kimat Kol Katvav Lo Nitfasu. I think many of the workings that he actually wrote didn't actually get in print. I'm not too sure if it's still that case or not. Hevi Litfus Chelek Michtevei Aviv, Va'af Hashlim Kama Teshuvot. B'shut Lechmei Toda. I think much of his father's works he would actually print also, he would actually publish. Be'ezrato Achi, Isho Abraham Achai, Cracovia, I think through his brother-in-law, if I'm not mistaken. There was also a printing of the Ma'osaf, Katvei Hayad, Shel Aviv, Chidushei Aran, on Mesechet Nida, respectively. And also the Musurat Siyag LaTorah of Rabbi Meir Halevi Abu Lafia. Rabbi Abu Lafia was another great rabbi, let's just say, of his time. Now, it's interesting. His rabbi was the famous Rabbi Benyamin HaKohen Vitali, a rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before here on this series. Now, he himself happened to have lived, I think, at around the time period of 1651 to 1730. We've actually mentioned him on various occasions before. His rabbi was famous Posek in Italy, a Kabbalist also. He was a rabbi of Reggio Emilia. He was one of the great rabbis of Italia. And that would be his son-in-law, will become Rabbi Yisrael Bassan, if I'm not mistaken. And had a connection, I think, with famous Ramchal also, we have to point out. Now, it's interesting. Among the great Rabbi Bassan's Talmidim included another great Rabbi Elia, Porgo, another rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before here in this series, as we stated beforehand. Rav Elia Moropogo, I think, was also a great rabbi. He was a translator, he was an educator, he was in various different places also in of itself. He was a famous man. He lived between 1740 to 1830. Let's just say in himself, he was the author of Igeret Ogret, the Devash Machalav, the Michtav Me'eliyahu, and was living at a time period where there was other people about. It could be he maybe had some connections with Haskalah movement, if I'm not mistaken, but he was more of a philosopher, definitely, and was actually the son of Rabbi Gabriel Chaim Morgov Rofo, also, which is very interesting enough, so we have to point that out also. Now, it's interesting, Rabbi Bassan would live at a time period where there were other great rabbis in his generation, including Rabbi Shimshon Chaim Nachmani, Moshe Chaim Lezata, the famous Ramchal, Rabbi David Pardo, and Rabbi Moshe Margoliot. Very interesting enough. Let's see something about Rabbi David Pardo, who we mentioned him on various occasions before. He actually was born between the years 1718 and passed away in 1790. He was about 72 years of age at that point in time. He was author, he was a Rosh Yeshiva also, he was a poet, he was author of various different great works, and was a student of very great Rabbanim at that point in time, and had obviously connections with many great rabbis. Also, he was very close, I believe, with Achida, Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Adizleh, also the Mishpat Ketuv, and by David, respectively. So he would actually have great descendants also, which we also have to point out. I think the Pardo family itself was another famous rabbinic family we've mentioned about on various occasions before. Now, let's say something about his father, Rabbi Yeshayahu Bassan. He actually lived between the years 1673 to 1739, I believe. He was about 66 years of age when he passed away. He was, I think he was a great rabbi in Reggio Emilia, also, just like I think his son would have a point in time. He was the author of the Shut Lachmei Toda, which I think was printed in Venice, if I'm not mistaken. He was actually a Talmid of Rabbi Moshe Zchut, Rabbi Benyamin HaKohen Vitali, and Rabbi Yehuda Bril. These are great rabbis, and among his students, obviously, was his son, who we're speaking about today, Rabbi Yisrael Benyamin Bassan, and another one of his Talmidim, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lezata. This is, we're talking about about his father, Rabbi Yisrael Benyamin Bassan's father over here. So he was a very great rabbi. He would take on various different importances, and was very close to, I think it's Ramchal. I think Meir Ben Yahu, a famous historian, would actually chronicle a lot and speak about him on various occasions before. And he was an author of various different great books, including the Agleidal, the Imre Yosher, the Kur Lezahav, which was Haggaot, I think, actually, interesting enough, on the Halichot Elai of Rabbi Shlomo El-Ghazi, interesting enough. So that is something else we've got to point out within regards to him. So we can see that really the connections himself of Rabbi Yisrael Benyamin Bassan was absolutely phenomenal. So he was famous Mo'hel of his time. He was a poet. He was shliach tzibur, and really had, let's just say, great connections in of itself. Now, it's actually interesting. I think among his writings, he wrote also a writing of Rabbi Meir Halevi Abu Lafia, or something connected within regards to that also, respectively, which we also must point out. So he was, let's say, maybe something short within regards to Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lezata. Seemingly there was a very close connection over there between those two great rabbis, and we can just get an idea of what Italy was like actually at that stage in time, within regards to the great rabbanim, the caliber of the rabbanim at that stage in time, because I think they would have an, let's just say, a encounter within regards to, as I mentioned before, within regards to the play that he would have. Now, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, I think, passed away on the 8th of May in 1744. He was obviously very, very great rabbi. He was living at a time period, I think, between 1707 to 1746, very much the same time period as Bassan, Rabbi Bassan was. He was also a Kabbalist, he was a philosopher, he was a great rabbi. He was also from Padua, interesting enough. He would pass away in Acre in the Ottoman Empire, and very much would, I think, be part of the same specific area in Padua, if I'm not mistaken. He would actually study in the University of Padua, and he was a master, let's just say, within regards to Torah and the Talmud, and especially in poetry. He was very, very into, let's just say, in himself, especially even as a youth, he would write various different poems and plays in of itself, and was seen as a master within regards to that. Especially the festival drama was called Migdal Oz, which we talked about before, and I think that was at the time when Rabbi Yisrael Benyamin Bassan was getting married. He would actually make this play in of itself. I think it was a 4-act play which shows Latin and Italian as well as biblical influence. He illustrates, let's just say, this play which he wrote for Rabbi Bassani, if I'm not mistaken, the victory of justice over iniquity. It is, I think, described masterly in versification and melodious in language. The lyrical passages being especially, let's say, lofty, and it has a wealth of pleasing imagery reminiscent of Giurani's Pasta Fido. That's what Wikipedia will actually talk about. I think the drama was edited by M. Letteris and published with notes by Rabbi the Shadal, Rabbi Shmuel David Luzzatto also, and Franz Delitzsch, I think in Leipzig in 1837, later on, I think in more European countries. So Rabbi Luzzatto was a famous rabbi. He would go eventually to Amsterdam, and it's actually interesting. I think Rabbi Yisrael Bassan was close very much with him. I think he was his rabbi, if I'm not mistaken, at that stage in time. And Amsterdam, he would do a huge amount. He'd eventually pass away, I think, in 1743 in the Holy Land in Accra, or maybe 1746. We'll have to check that out, if I'm not mistaken. But that's actually interesting. He was actually the author of the Derech Hashem, various different Musa books, which will be used by the Musa movement later on, especially Rabbi Yisrael Salanta, and various different other Torah books. Let's just say, you know, himself, he's got like a wealth of bibliography. The Ramchal has, including Maaseh Shimshon, Lashon Limudim, Migdal Oz, obviously connected to Rabbi Bassani, Zohar Kohelet. So many different Torah works in itself. The Ein Yisrael, the Milchamot Hashem, the Kinaot Hashem. Let's just say the Sefer Daniel, he would write a booking on, and the Derech Hashem, probably the most famous one in itself, and most notably the Mesilat Yesharim, which was his most famous work, let's just say, that enables its readers to grow in piety step by step. And it was written when he was 33 years of age in 1740. But this is just going on a side note, because we're speaking over here today in this special edition about famous Rabbi Bassani, Rabbi Yisrael Benyamin Bassan, who lived about 89 years of age, who was a great rabbi of his time, the author of the Perei Lechem book, one of the famous rabbis of Italy in the 1700s, respectively, and was connected to many of the great rabbis across the world. So please learn more about him. Now, friends, we are a community here. We're learning about great rabbis of yesteryear. If you descend from any of the great rabbis, please send me an email. I would love to hear more information within regards to the great rabbis. He's actually featured, I think, in the Jewish Encyclopedia also. There's big articles within regards to him, and also in the Chacham Yomi book in of itself, and talks about the various different things. I think you would have several volumes of response, I think, connected to Jewish Haggadah, Jewish calendar, respectively, and so on and so forth. I think also the Chacham Yomi website would actually speak about Rabbi Bassani in little terms. I think they actually show the book of the Lachmei Todah, respectively, and gives a very detailed, let's say, article within regards to him. Let's explore a few of the teachings from his book. I think especially from the Kobetz Et Chaim, if I'm not mistaken, that was maybe issued in 2017 or was printed. It says Melamed Shahid Chalat Miatuk Ade Dinim Biyom Lamed This is one of the teachings over there. There's another teaching, I think, from another one of his books. I think maybe connected to the Chida, if I'm not mistaken. It was found, I think, in the book of the Chida within regards to him. Malamed lidrosh smochim lifnei ishnei chevron hamitztarim bekever. This is another teaching. And one last teaching within regards to him, I think, found in the book that was printed through Rabbi Yitzchak Poa, if I'm not mistaken, in the Sheilot Shuvot Lachmei Toda. I think Sheila Chavchet, the 28th Sheila, I think in page 94, it states over, Melamed Sod Le'otiyot HaFochot HaNimtzaot B'Sefer Torah. This is another teaching that is actually very much featured here. So friends, please subscribe to the channel. We're nearing a staggering, at the moment, 7,500 subscribers. Wishing you all Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for spending the time watching. If you descend from any of the great rabbis we are speaking about, please send me an email. I would love to hear more information about the great Chacham also. So take care, have a great night, and thanks for watching. Thank you.